Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. Y'all know my two co-hosts, Wade and John. How y'all doing, boys?
Absolutely fabulous.
Doing good. Doing good.
Army, sorry. I had something in my throat. And then we got United States Air Force, Paul. Paul, how you doing?
Doing good.
United States Marine Corps, Jason. Sometimes I want to introduce Jason as United States Marine Corps. Jason, you know.
There you go.
You know. All right. So before we get started, I want to remind everybody of what we talked about last week before we get into how to improve your PTSD or mental state. And so we're going to do around the table on this. But last week we talked about the ICD codes, and a lot of questions I got because a lot of people did not watch it who were asking the questions is what percentage do I get with the new ICD codes? You get absolutely zero with ICD code. It's more of a validation for us Desert Storm vets. It tells everybody that, hey, something went on. We don't know what it is. And then also I want to talk about, the I got hacked on TikTok, and I really got hacked on TikTok really good. And so I'm working to get that account so we can get all the stuff back over to there for the people who watch on TikTok. I didn't quite know how to tell the people from TikTok I got hacked up, but a lot of them are figuring it out. I'm getting messages. And then next, this is one of the important ones that we talked about last week, right here. The study for Dr. Glom has a QR code. Scan it. I'll put it in the messages, Dropbox, and everything. But right here, she's the one that helped us get the ICD codes, and she does studies, to help all of us go forward. She concentrates more on us than anybody else. And so I thought that I would like to bring that up again tonight. I think that's very important. So tonight's topic, and Mr. Marine up here, he wanted to really talk about PTSD. And I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Jason. I'd like for you to talk about it, the struggles with it and what you do that helps you out.
Well, yeah, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up is there's has been misconceptions of what PTSD is, and so there seems to be almost a plague of weakness that surrounds that when a person is diagnosed. So a lot of guys, I think, kind of hold that in and don't talk about it and don't bring it up and try to deny. Well, so one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring it up is to kind of share my experiences with it. I'm not a medical professional in any way or shape or form. I didn't even know what the word or what the acronym PTSD stood for just a few years ago. I was like really kind of in the dark. When I was diagnosed with a neurological disorder back in the early 90s, and that's how they had diagnosed me. They didn't use the term PTSD from from here in Idaho, where I'm from. So I never knew about it. Didn't think about it. Never gave much thought of the symptoms that I was going through. Early on, I found that I was very edgy. I would scare really easily. Fireworks was or loud noises. Gosh, there was times I would actually be on the ground, thinking that bombs were going off, or in my case mortars. Okay, were going off. And it would take me right back to the war. And then I also was dealing with early on with cognitive issues. I couldn't pay attention, and literally I didn't quite realize that I even had a problem. I remember this one time that I was pretty young at the time. I was working for a dairy farm here at home, and the owner of the dairy, he had come out, and my job was to feed the cows and the calves and everything, and so I was out feeding, and he gave me a list of all the different weights of the rations to put in the feed truck and so on and so forth, like he had done so many other times. And I literally went and loaded the truck. I didn't even retain what he had told me. Anyway, as I'm out there feeding the cows, he comes up to me and he's like, What on earth are you doing?" And I was like 22 or 23 years old. I was pretty young, and just came up to me like, what is the matter with you? Or, did you not pay attention at all? And I'm like, gosh, I guess not. And that's not that I made a big deal of it, or it was just a conscious thing that, wow, I didn't even hear what he was telling me. you know Things like that, the just complete absence of short-term memory, if you will. And then but that was early on. Being startled was absolutely terrible. Fourth of July every year has been atrocious for me. It's just like, unfortunately, when I as I got older, I started drinking a lot of alcohol. When I drank a lot of alcohol, I think that sparked a lot more intensity of being startled, especially the Fourth of July. And I would try to drink as much as I could just to pass out, to where I didn't have to listen to the for me, bombs bursting in air. It had a whole new meaning. And 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 I would literally you know curl up in a ball, and my wife would be trying to cater to me, and help me through it and whatnot. And it was just so odd. But at that time, I didn't think nothing of it. I just thought this was just one of those things. Well, I also had found that in my work, in my when I started working and being around other men that were my age or older, a lot of them I was in my 20s, so in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I thought I'd always thought to myself, when I started entering into the workforce after the Marine Corps, uh, that, well, there's a lot of childish men out there. I didn't A lot of people didn't take life seriously, is what I thought. And I was just baffled by manlyhood, if you will, taking care of your family and all this. Maybe that has to do with some of my upbringing, of course, but I just found it very, very odd. And then I noticed I was very irritated with these people. Like, I just didn't want to be around them. This wasn't when I was in my 20s, so I was pretty young. Anyway, as time went on, I started focusing more and more on my work, and I became basically very proficient in what I'd done. I was in the transportation industry, in the milk business. I learned everything I could from the gentlemen that were my teachers, if you will, as they were bringing me up in the business. I was like a sponge. I couldn't get enough information, and that's what I was focused on my almost my entire adult life. Instead of being a dad and a husband, yes, that was always there, but my main focus was always on work, and I thrived on that. And I never took time off or anything. I was like probably the greatest employee that an employer could have, because I would just work. And I found that uh, through the years, eventually I opened my own business, and I done that for myself, and I would just work basically around the clock. I've always had sleeping issues and everything. And anyway, as that ended back in 2018, I didn't realize at the time that I was suffering from any PTSD or any brain problems. But when that work ended for me, I went into a complete spiral. I had no idea what was going on, and I continued to go back and have thoughts and intrusive, uh, vivid dreams and whatnot of the war, and I was like reliving, like almost every day, those accounts that I had gone through. So I basically had locked myself in my house for almost a year after the business shut down. I wanted nothing to do with people. I I it I couldn't hardly drive. When I would drive, I would have thoughts of basically suicidal ideation, is what they told me it was. I would envision myself running into somebody just to end it. I was to that low of a point. Uh, uh, I did attempt suicide when I was at my worst. I had my 357 with me, and I had locked myself in the shop down in our property, made sure my wife was up at the house and that there was no one around. And just before I pulled the trigger, I had a brother in the Lord call me, and I answered him, and he's like, "Hey, Jason, how you doing, brother?" And I'm like, "I'm not doing well. Can you just pray for me?" And so he immediately started praying for me, and and then afterwards he started quoting some scripture to me. And I immediately, after we hung up the phone, I immediately got on my knees and begged God to take those ideas from me and casting Satan away from me. And so I didn't complete the task that I had set out for, to end my life. But that was the start of my battle. And I had found, after I was able to finally leave my house and start work again, uh, I became an equipment salesman, and that was very, very challenging for me. But I knew that I couldn't get back in that trucking industry. I worked 24/7 for all them years, and I just did not want that lifestyle anymore. But when I started this position, I I would have bouts of, which I didn't know it was at the time, but I would have times where I would pull up to a stoplight in my pickup and just completely lose my emotions and start crying, and just uh, and a lot of it was I couldn't get the thoughts of the war out of my head, and my brothers over there, and the things that I'd been through over there, and then the negative consequences of my adult life, because I suffer from so much paranoia. I think everybody's out to get me. Uh, so that was constant, and I finally was able to muster the courage to drive over to the little VA clinic we have here in town. And I stood in front of the lady up in the desk, and she's like, "Can I help you?" And I says, you know, and I probably just looked totally out of the norm for her, but I just stood there holding my head, going, "There's something wrong with me," you know. And I don't know what's going on, but there's like this dark cloud that has enveloped me, and I can't get beyond it. And that was when the VA had finally stepped in and sent me to a counselor. That counselor cleared his whole schedule for that day just for me, which I felt was very, very encouraging that someone was there,
Yeah.
you know. anyway, I sat in there, and me and him got to know each other. And after several different weeks of going in there, and he explained to me that what PTSD was, and I'm like, I had no idea. Nobody had ever talked to me about it. And but I had been struggling for almost 2 years at that point with trying to commit suicide and end the darkness. I didn't want to do nothing with that anymore. So to me, and I think I brought this up on the last meeting that we were all on a month ago, that to me, that is one of the hardest symptoms from the Gulf War that I've had to deal with is PTSD. That is, I wish this upon no one, where you can't hardly even leave the house. You don't even want to be around people. The last thing you even think of is reaching out for help from someone, because you don't even realize you need help.
Oh
And-
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's very true.
that's the oddest thing. So I wanted to bring my, well, I'm sorry that I've taken so much time, but I wanted to bring my story to light to
Fine.
say this. I don't believe that I'm by myself. I
You're not.
There's others that are
Yeah.
exactly like me, because I continue to meet these gentlemen. I usually will pick up on keywords. Of course, I'm in sales now, so that's part of my job, is to pick up on keywords that somebody will say something, and I can usually tell when another veteran is hurting and needing help, and it's usually those key words, and that will start the conversation. Brother, is there anything I can do for you? How are you today? You are needed. You do, you might not realize this, but I love you as a brother, and I will die for you. And that fight for all of us should be there for each of our brothers and sisters that we run into, whether we know them or not.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. As a matter of fact, you can ask Wade and John whenever the VA messed up my medicine. You want to talk about some thoughts I've never had go through my head. And I finally was able to go out on Monday after they kind of got it together. The VA did with the medicine. And mine was just for nerve pain, but they put me on a stronger fixer that, we all know that's a depression medicine. And I pulled up, and this guy walks up to me. He goes, "Sir, I don't know what it is, but I just have to tell you, man, thank you for your service." I started busting out crying.
Yeah.
And that guy walked over and he hugged me. He goes, "Are you okay?" I said, "No." I said, "The VA messed up my medicine, but you just made my freaking day." and I mean, really, man, I'm tearing up about it right now, because it's amazing how you take that step into life, and then one minute you're hurting, the next minute somebody just walks right in out of the blue, just like you said, you got that phone call.
Yeah.
Think about that. There's a purpose for and a reason for everything.
Absolutely.
And let me tell you, the pastor that we go to church with, he's a Marine, and he was in Desert Storm, and he will tell you flat out, straight up, that we all have a purpose on this earth. You have to figure it out.
Absolutely.
I can't figure it out for John. John can't figure it out for Paul. Paul could probably figure it out for Wade.
Yeah, like I could.
Oh, no. And this is where I want to jump to Wade, because
Well, can I finish, Kevin?
yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, I find this very important. Since we discussed what do we want to talk about tonight, I have put countless hours of thought into this. I've invited some people to watch tonight. Some some wives with their husbands and whatnot that were in the army and the military, and I feel that I would do them a disservice if I didn't talk about this, just because we've been talking about this. So so to me, PTSD, I wanted to go back to what is PTSD. So when I was a child, I had a pretty tough childhood. I think a lot of us do. Lots of trauma. I lost my mother when I was 14 to an accident. She did not die. She was in a coma for a year and a half. And then after that, when she woke up, she was in a vegetated state for approximately 20 years after, you know. So that was very traumatic in my childhood, you know. And then uh, and then when I go into the Marine Corps, I'm in boot camp. Okay, just to kind of give some clarity to where what I think PTSD, what has caused this PTSD in me, and possibly in others, is I I had noticed when I was in boot camp, I had a few of the drill instructors had approached me, uh, and they were saying certain things about my mother that I didn't appreciate. I think that we've all been there, you know. And I lit right in the middle of those guys. Number one, they were all smaller than me, right? And so but I was ready to take on all four of them because they had said something about my mother. And as a recruit, you know that you're a scared little child, you know.
Right.
And and for me to be willing to take on all four of them, they grabbed me, took me right into the drill instructor's office, and said, "What's going on?" And I explained to him about my mother. You know, probably at that point should have been a red flag for the Marine Corps to, you know, what field I should have been put in, you know, or how I should have been handled. Because when someone has that kind of a traumatic event in their life, in their childhood, is is probably going to be a good indication of what's going to happen if they end up in combat or a stressful situation like such. Fast forward to Desert Storm when we were sent over there. You know, I have stated in the past that my weapon didn't work. There were seven of us, and as far as my memory serves me correctly, there were seven of us who carried them saws, and they didn't work. They had cycling issues. You would be lucky if you were able to get one round off, you know, and then it would jam, and you'd have to tear it down to unjam it. And so I spent approximately 7 or 8 months, however long, thinking that I'm going to probably die, right? And faced with that, not everybody even looks at it that way, but I sure was. You know, I sure was looking at, gosh, the Marine Corps has turned their back on me. Uh, you know, the people who were in authority above me turned their back on me. You know, and so I had this very traumatic 7 or 8 months. And then when the bullets did start flying and the mortar rounds started dropping, I even had a mortar round drop probably 5 feet in front of me. And I was, you know, we were laying down, we were providing security for collecting some POWs when a mortar round dropped right in front of me. You know, there's been talk of how a percussion could cause brain damage. Is that what caused this PTSD? These problems that I'm having and have had for the last 35 years? I don't know. No one's ever dug that far into it for me. But I know that I've had some issues. So I wanted to bring that up, that it could be a multitude of things that could cause or bring on PTSD or symptoms of. And then we were exposed to all the toxins in the war as well. It could be related to some of that. We don't know. But as we go forward, and when I was introduced to what PTSD was, I had realized that definition of what a combat veteran or a veteran that has been exposed to traumatic events, whatever it is, when they are lumped in with other people who, are labeled as having PTSD as well, it can be traumatic in and of itself, and cause severe anxiety and depression to know that you're just lumped in with everyone else and no one's listening to you, and you feel like, wow, I don't even belong with these people, right? I can't understand that they stubbed their toe in boot camp and had to wear tennis shoes, so now they're 70% disabled with PTSD because somebody made fun of them. I've been told that from people, and they got service connected with PTSD. That's what I'm like, this doesn't make sense. How can we be lumped together? That's totally two different, completely different
Right. I agree with you on that.
events,
I think Jason, as far as the time as actually in that war, for me personally, I think my issues stem from what I saw, what I heard, what I smelled. Visual and smell is probably my two biggest things that make me have problems. I was an engineer. I mean, we didn't take a lot of incoming. We mostly went through after the fact. Okay. But I totally understand what you're getting at when you don't understand what's going on in your head and you're like, what's causing me to have these problems? Why can't I focus? Why does that smell, especially if I see something on TV, my therapist will say, John, stop watching it. I can't stop watching it because that's what I'm interested in. I try and nitpick things apart. I get really mad sometimes because civilians tend to piss me off when there's no organization, there's no chain of command, and they do what they want. To me, that's frustrating. So I understand where you're coming from.
I think anybody
I
that
do
went in
get
the
it.
military feels that way, though, John. I mean, I can tell you right
Fair
now.
statement.
I mean, anybody that went to the military, that got out of the military, that came out, they go into civilian life, they lost that, they lost what they worked for. They're now back into a society that is a lot more carefree, that isn't structured. And that can cause anxiety. I know I like structure. I'm a very structured. I like a routine. But Jason brought up a good point where this one I want to go to Wade with is about you drank a lot. And now, I mean, to me, I think you and Wade have a lot of similarities there. But I mean, Wade has said over and over, which I want him to talk a little bit about this a little bit more depth, what he did to change it and what made him change it. Go ahead, Wade.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I drank like a fish when I was in service. I drank like a fish before I got in service. So I'm not blaming the military for my drinking. I didn't, drank like a fish while I was there. Drank like a fish when I came out and continued on for the next 30 years. That didn't help a thing. What did help is when I quit drinking, detox my body. I can see a huge difference over the last 3 years. I never had nightmares. And that was something I wanted to address. But this last week, I was fortunate enough to sit down at a round table at a vet center with several different generations of vets. I felt, when you want to talk about anxiety, I felt like I was the quote unquote, the underclassmen. I'm sitting in there with Vietnam veterans. I'm sitting in there with multi-tour post 9/11 veterans, sitting in there with veterans who've been blown up by IEDs. And then there's me in my 100-hour war. Okay. I was there to learn is why I sat in. And the counselor who was there explained everybody's brain is developed differently. Everybody has a certain tolerance, kind of like a pain tolerance. One person can take more pain than the other person. The brain can take more trauma than another person. And it doesn't mean that one person's stronger or weaker than the other person. It's just the way we're built. Go ahead, Paul.
A friend of mine told me years ago, I think it was true then, I think it's true today. The worst thing you've ever been through is the worst thing you've ever been through.
Amen. Absolutely.
Okay. So, Jason, I could sit here and think to myself, man, never could have made it through that. Conversely, John, you might sit there and say, God, Paul, how did you handle that? Trauma and what we've been through as combat veterans is as unique as our fingerprints.
Yeah, that's basically what the counselor is saying. Exactly.
And to me, one of the things that really helped me put some things into focus, whether it was 100-hour war or 100-year war, the worst thing that you've ever been through is the worst thing you've ever been through. So I am not going to minimize my experience anymore in light of or fear of casting a shadow upon someone else, nor am I going to let someone cast a shadow upon me by putting me down saying, well, I was a tunnel rat in Vietnam. Do you know what tunnel rats did in Vietnam, Paul? Yes, I do know what tunnel rats did in Vietnam. And thank God it was you, and thank God it was not me.
Right. Like that's what Kevin and I said. You can't pick your generation and pick your war.
Exactly. You know,
I did want to piggyback real quick off of Jason, and it was really ironic that going on with his story, because this was part of what I picked up from the roundtable. It was something I mentioned before in a previous podcast, and we only had a quick minute. I'm just going to take a real quick minute on this about chemical exposures that will mimic post-traumatic stress disorder. Mimicking, John, that means it acts the same as. I didn't want to make it.
Wow. Wow. Come on. Why is it always me? Is it because of this? What the hell?
But it talks about and so I talked to the counselor. He gave me some information. I'll keep this. It does dumb me down. But it's talked about chemical exposures, the neurotoxic effects, the psychological that will mimic the psychological traumas. Which I'll be honest, I called bullcrap on it on the last podcast and before I started going to it. But after I dug into this, and I mean, there's actual research studies that will actually has actually proved this, that exposure to neurotoxin agents can have the same effect on the brain as actual traumatic events. It doesn't, and so you may have not had a traumatic event, but your brain thinks you had a traumatic event. So you're having the same signs and symptoms. To include anxiety and depression, irritability, your hypervigilance, concentration problems, avoidance, flashbacks, and sleep disturbances. I mean, does any of this sound familiar to anybody?
Check.
One of the most common, and at the top of the list, is organic phosphates. Paul, what is organic phosphates? What are the two that we received in Desert Storm?
Go, sir.
Sarin, cyclosarin, and your pesticides that they sprayed all over us.
Yep.
So receiving acute meaning real quick. It's real quick, John. That's acute.
I'm glad you're spelling this all out. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back and reread everything and get a book out and the definition of everything. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Next time I'm bringing flashcards.
Words, brother.
Can always cause, and not always, but can cause anxiety, confusion, and memory loss. Now it goes way deeper into that, but it goes on and says that, you know, if it continues for long term after the chemical exposure is stopped, that, you know, a diagnosis needs to be, you know, down the road. But what I'm saying is, I honestly thought that was bullcrap when I read it after doing more research. Okay, I buy into that, especially given our circumstances that, you know, yes, we were exposed to this. Yes, we have a high population of our veterans who have a diagnosis of PTSD. Does it fit? Yeah, I think the pieces do fit. some of the veterans have more of the signs and symptoms of PTSD than other veterans, probably because of the way that their brain handled it, or because maybe the more or less of the chemical exposures that they have. Whatever it is, I think there's some validity to it.
I agree with that. I'm impressed you actually came on here and said that you went and you studied it. I mean, he did tell me just
I definitely changed my
I'm doing
opinion.
my whole on this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I totally changed my opinion on it. Absolutely.
And so here's my thing. I guess for me, and this is where I'm different from all of y'all. Okay. And, not all of y'all, just some of y'all, Jason and stuff. I had a wonderful childhood. I had to me, John met my parents. I had the best parents in the freaking world, man. Be on top of that, I had the best friends that you could ever have, man. Me and my best friend, we fished every single day that we could. I mean, and his dad took us all the time. So his parents were like my parents, and we did that all the time. And so, but I didn't know what life was really like because I was like in a bubble, how I looked at it. Small little town at that time. But when I went in the military, that's when I realized, man, everybody's different. And then when I came home, I realized, wait a second, everybody at home is really different. I did realize that's when the war did change me. I did realize that, but it didn't change them. It changed me because we had to grow up fast.
Right.
What was the biggest thing that they did right before they went out there? I don't know for y'all, but let me tell you what they did for us. We had to all write a letter and put it inside of our pocket. In case we got killed, your buddy got to take it home with you. Okay. Then on top of that, they were asking anybody out there who wants a chaplain to come on and pretty much read your last rites. That's really what it was. And so you're thinking this whole time, like, oh crap, man, how bad is it going to be? Then you had the thought process of what Vietnam went through. How are they going to accept us back at home? That was one of the questions I did ask. How are people accepting of us? Because you don't know. And so you got to put all that into a factor along with the chemicals and stuff. But I have anxiety. I know I do, but my anxiety is over weather and stuff like that. And, the depression, I never really thought I had depression. My kids were like, oh, yeah, you did. Because, the way I yelled at them, the way I did stuff, and that's one thing about it. I went to work, worked hard, didn't want to take vacations. I understand that, Jason. And all that. And I look back going, okay, so maybe there is something to the depression side of it. And so I had a counselor tell me that I was depressed. I was going through a divorce right before I went out. And that didn't help at all. So if you kind of sit back and you think about it, all
transitioning transitioning from the military, especially in the military, especially if you're coming out of war, and if you went straight into civilian life, or even if you went back into, so back into garrison, back into training, it's different. Your brain's all wonky. I mean, to a degree. I mean, Wade, I know you shared when you got back, you just, you were a single guy. I was married at the time, that transition point, even I would imagine even today's world, you go into the military, do whatever it is you do, and then you get out of the military, regardless of what you did in the military, say for the most part, you're kind of reprogrammed. Jason, as you were saying, you have drill instructors all around you. Those men and women got a really difficult task. Drill sergeants, they got to get in your head. They're surrounding you, and they had the decency to pull you in and say, what is going on? And then you explain, because who's going to know? I mean, my goodness, you had a really difficult childhood. And that's, they have to understand that. And I'm glad whoever the drill sergeants.
Well, look at it like that. You're talking about the drill sergeants, right, John? Y'all are talking about the drill sergeants.
Okay,
so when we stepped off the airplane, You know, I find it funny now, but back then I didn't find this very funny at all. When we stepped off the airplane, I don't know about y'all, man, they're shaking your hand. Hey, welcome, United States Navy, Air Force, these guys are
No,
cool, man.
no,
We got on that bus
no.
and they're talking to us. Y'all guys line up on the bus. When we went through that gate, split personality hit. Son of a bitch. Man, I got told my mama didn't love me anymore. I got, your girlfriend's gonna cheat on you. I mean, and I'm over there thinking to myself, not if my mom doesn't love me, but I'm thinking to myself, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, hell yeah. What did I get myself into?
I was such a homeboy and a mommy's boy, and so I called my mom. I'm like, this was a mistake. I was crying. I'll be honest. Hey, my masculinity's coming out. I was crying and I said, they told me you didn't love me anymore. My mom would come and kick their ass, but but I mean, I look at it, I see the point where they have to break you down. They build you up, and when you're done with boot camp, it's up to you then to prove yourself. And I
How
went.
many of you?
Go
How
ahead,
many of y'all
Paul.
were on the cattle car for
yeah.
the transition? Get
Yeah.
picked up on a cattle car. You're in there. I had one very large black man standing there yelling at us. We had our duffel bag. Stand up. We all stood up. We're driving down. Sit down. Too slow. And that thing went on for like 20 minutes between the time we got from wherever we arrived until we got to,
That's an
our
Army
maps,
thing.
And then they get out and they start doing the shark attack, and it's just game on from there.
Oh yeah.
I want to hear Paul. Paul, what do you have to say?
My experience was a little bit different.
They had coffee for you, didn't they, Paul?
Sorry, I couldn't. It's an Air Force thing. I knew he was going to go right there.
We had carpet and vacuums, not linoleum and buffers. Okay. I don't know how to run a buffer, and that's because I scored high enough weight on the ASVAB test joining the Air Force.
All right, you got me there.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you score high enough, you can choose what branch to serve.
Wow.
Some of us, it's like 30 flavors, brother. You go with a $20 bill, you can go wherever you want.
Damn, Wade, he got you on that one, brother.
Fair enough.
Oh, wow. Stab.
A little bit of humor here. The thing that blew me away was we were preparing for this situation for several months. I worked with the B-52 bomber unit out of Michigan, and this was going to be the first time since Vietnam we used B-52s in a conventional role. We had to reprogram literally our bombers from nuclear standoff to conventional weapons. And then we'd run missions every day out in the Las Vegas desert, Area 51, right? Blah, blah, blah. That's a whole other conversation. But out in the Nevada desert, running test missions. We get to Saudi Arabia, and I'm 19 years old. I've been in training for a year, and I want to go. Whoever's played sports in their life, and you go to a week of practice, 2 weeks. I don't care if you're in the 7th grade playing tennis. I don't care if you're a junior in college playing D1 football. You go to practice, and you learn and you learn and you learn. And we all went to practice, and we all learned, and we got hyped up and fired up like you guys are all saying. I wanted to go. As insane as that sounds as a 54-year-old man today, I didn't want to go to practice for a year, school, education, training, and then not figure out if I could do it. So then I get there, and I'm like, these are not wooden tanks in the Nevada desert. These anti-aircraft and anti-artillery missiles shoot back. There's 1.2 million people 100 miles away who want to kill me and everybody here. We're outnumbered. Baghdad's the 4th most heavily defended city in the world. They just got done fighting an 8-year war with Iran where they kicked their ass. This is not a paper tiger. The downside for me in one respect was I worked in intelligence. We knew the numbers. We knew the projections as to what was going to happen. My unit had 17 B-52 bombers. We were expected to lose 9 the first night of the war. My job was to teach, educate, and train. Think of yourselves. six guys on that plane. My job was to make sure that you got in there, hit your targets, and came home. And if you got shot down, my job was to teach and train you how to survive in the desert so you don't get kidnapped. You realize very quickly, you grow up very quickly. I don't remember who said it. Maybe it was Kevin, maybe it was Wade. Very, very quickly. These are not wooden tanks in the Nevada desert. These are real tanks, real people who really want you to not do what you do. For me, okay, great. I was able to compartmentalize that. Jason, I had a very difficult childhood as well. For better or for worse, it allowed me to compartmentalize things. I get back to the States, go on leave, blah, 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 come back. Late April, I'm in Michigan at this B-52 bomber unit. First thing we do, we go back to planning nuclear war. I have maps that I build that are 17 feet long. No shit, 3 feet wide, 17 feet long. How to fly from Michigan over Scandinavia, launch cruise missiles, 350 kilotons per missile. Then go over Soviet Union into Moscow, drop nukes, recover in Turkey, get cleaned off, fly back to a different base in Michigan because the base we were at is going to be gone by the Soviet subs. They're going to blow us up. To relaunch B-52s to do it again. Before I went, that's just paper on a map. That's never going to happen. That was a movie called War Games. Back in the day, they turned it off. I go to Desert Storm and I see what really can be done with conventional weapons. And 2 months later, I'm sitting here planning nuclear war. For me, and what I did, that was a transition like you guys are talking about. For me to go, okay, these are wooden tanks in the Nevada desert. So these are real tanks with real people trying to kill us. Jason, Wade, John, you guys deal with POWs and people come across the border, all that garbage, right? So then we do that. Boom. We all come back home and yeah, you can get a free McDonald's hamburger or maybe an oil change or whatever the hell it was. People felt guilty about the Vietnam veterans. So the pendulum swung for us. Yep. Awkward. Yep. Never joined for fame or fortune. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But I'm just trying to get back home to get a clean clothes.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with that.
And then we pivoted to, okay, now you're back. Welcome home, Paul. Let's go back to planning global thermonuclear war.
Let's see, for that I never thought about it like that.
That blew me away. That was a whole different aspect. Sorry, a whole different piece of that horizon for me.
Okay, so look at it like this, though, Paul. You're talking about training. You know, when you're in the Navy, the Army, they trained all the time. You know, digging foxholes so the Marines can come in and help them out and save them, and then. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's your
sorry. I had something in my throat. Sorry. No, but I mean, anyway. No. Okay, no, being serious though. With us being out there, we went to general quarters every day, practice, drill. So if something does happen, and let me tell you, you screw up at every drill, but when it comes to the real crap, it's amazing how they don't have to tell you to do anything. You can spout that crap off like that. You just know what to do. So I understand the purpose of drilling. Back then I didn't. I was like,
yeah, exactly.
This is stupid. I could be sleeping right now. You know, the only 2 hours I got left and we got to run some more rigs or, you know, but I understand it. I completely understand it.
Practice. How many times did you guys put on your mask? You know, you were given, I don't know how many seconds it was when the alarm sounded, you got X amount of seconds, put on your mask, all clear. And when it happened to us, I didn't even think about it. All of a sudden we all heard a muffle. We knew we heard it. We didn't think, we just did, you know, and everybody was instantaneously in masks.
I want to tell you something. Before we can unzip it to get it out, they were like, faulty alarm.
Unzip what? You pull it, you yank, and there you go. What? Unzipping.
Or pull your pouch, whatever. Ours was in a pouch.
What?
Oh my God.
Pouch, zip, pouch.
Pull. He has no idea, John. He has no clue.
I mean, I didn't have to pull mine out. They always said faulty alarm. and everything. I mean, look, it's not my fault that y'all have the good stuff. We still have the old stuff back from World
Right?
War One.
Good. Hell, we didn't even have fucking replacement filters. Good. Shit. We just wanted the damn things to seal,
you know,
You
in
know,
the freaking sweat,
what Paul was saying, and that is so true. I was fortunate, and I'm fortunate to meet a guy this week, which eventually will be a guest here coming up with. I don't want to like blow that, but and you're right. You it's like a football team. You train and you train and you practice and you train, and that's this guy is so hua, and talking to him made me so hua because he's right. And I remember the one thing. Think about sitting over there for so long, and I sat there from August 20th until February 24th when they said it was time to go. What was the one thing that you wanted to do? I mean, forget the war. What's the one thing after sitting there for so many months that you wanted to do?
Get back home.
You wanted to come home. And that's exactly right. And I told him, the one thing I remember our commander said is you only got to do one thing. You got to go over there. You got to kill the enemy, win, and you get to go home. And you tell that to a bunch of infantry, and what do you think they're going to do? Unfortunately or fortunately, the Air Force, the Navy wrecked so much damn havoc. Then the armored went across and just destroyed anything that the Air Force and the Navy left. I mean, they just ran over and destroyed everything. Then we had the Marines coming up and destroying everything in Kuwait. It was basically a policing job, to go back over, which is great. I mean, it was great. It was a domination. So, but that's the whole thing was we did such an outstanding job, overwhelming force and just dominated. And like Paul said, we were supposed to take so many casualties, but all we wanted to do was to get home and do the job.
Wait, read it.
What? No complaining troops, no NBCs were deployed. Okay.
And see, this is somebody who wasn't over there because the NBCs were deployed.
Yeah, somebody hasn't done their homework.
So, right, and so this is your problem right here. This is the problem right here.
NBCs were deployed. I don't get that. I don't understand what that.
Well, he's pretty much saying that the alarms, all that stuff.
Yeah, the 4,000 alarms that went off because there was nothing in the air.
Boy,
right.
Okay. And so, I mean, but that's half of our problem right there.
That's a big problem right there.
It's like that.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm going to get, and I'm glad he just led into that. I'm glad he put that in there and everything. And if he wants to come on the show one day and talk about his time in Desert Storm, I would like to talk about this. It's stuff like that. It's stuff that people post on social media, stuff that people read that pisses you off. And that's half of the problem is vets fighting amongst vets, giving out misinformation, showing stupid ass crap that doesn't need to be said. So, I mean, if you don't like it, don't write about it.
We talked about exercise training. We're really, really good at building men and women to go and do fucking horrible things. Okay? And we did. We're not really, really good at unbuilding that. At the end of the day, that is incumbent upon our families to suffer whatever it is we bring back with us. That is not fair. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not asking for an answer. I just know that it is not fair for our families, our wives, our husbands, our brothers, sisters, moms, dads, and kids. At the end of the day, it's just not fair. I'm not saying the military should out-process us in a way, but I do think there needs to be more than what we have today when we're coming out of the military. I sat there in a round table, Wade, sounds like what you did. And the generation beneath us, Iraq and Afghanistan. And one guy said, "Do you know what your problem is?" I said, "Oh my God, please tell me. I've been trying to figure that out for 54 years. What is my problem? I've known you 2 minutes and you already know." He said, "Your generation was taught never to talk about it."
Mm.
And that put me on my heels.
That's because we got our ass beat if we talked about,
For whatever reason.
right?
Whatever reason, right?
Right? I mean,
Whatever reason. I was
right.
told the answer to every one of my questions was in the bottom of a beer bottle. All I needed to do was tip it up and look.
No shit. Yeah.
Okay.
It,
That was by my NCOIC. Okay. That was a different time. What I'm saying is, I don't care if you had a medical injury in boot camp and you were there for 6 weeks and you got 1,000,000% PTSD and 42% for anxiety. I don't care. I've gotten to the point where I don't care. This guy's comments, he has no idea what he's talking about. I've shared with you guys and everybody else all the declassified intelligence reports about NBC that were used, how the United States was involved, when, where, how, all the things. I don't have to prove if I'm right. I conversely don't have to prove he's wrong. We were there. We know.
right. That's what I
Right.
agree. That's
And-
what I agree.
And
What-
PTSD, like Jason was talking, post-traumatic stress disorder. Each and every one of us, we may or may not know we have it. We may or not be service connected for it. It's a real thing. Wade has learned some things, here and not, what he's gone through. Like you said, Paul, this gentleman who chimed in, yeah, it pisses me off because I allowed it to piss me off because of those people who don't know simply don't know. Okay, you don't know what you don't know, but don't come in and I mean, we all have a right to our opinion. Okay, one might say ignorance is bliss. You can be ignorant, but don't sit there and try and talk about something you're uninformed about. That was an uninformed comment. We understand that.
Well, but the thing about it is nobody, like, I don't know what y'all saw. I was out in the water. I mean, now I'm going to tell you right now, if I would have fell overboard, I would have had PTSD of snakes. I'm telling you, right off the freaking bat, man. Just like I have PTSD of spiders. Spider gets on me, I'm running, and I don't know why I'm running because they're still on me if I'm still running. I mean, I haven't figured that one out. But I mean, really, it's just the way it is. I mean, everybody's body is built differently.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. The brain, man,
Right.
the brain.
And
Which is a gray matter between our ears, right, Wade? Do I have that right?
Correct, John. Good job.
Okay.
So let's
Okay.
let's
I
talk
won.
about this. Let's I want to bring this up just because of that gentleman's response too. The clinical definition of PTSD typically stems from some traumatic event during childhood and is what's the word? Exemplified?
Exacerbated
through typically a combat stressor type event in your military service. Does that take away from your military experience or your childhood experience? No, it doesn't. And I do not recall anyone on this panel at any time talking about our service connection. And I just want folks to know, just because I can't stand people, especially their stupid comments or emojis in the posts or whatever. If you want to put a laughing face on somebody's post because you think you're funny or you think you have it all, that's on you. I'm going to try not to let that bug me. But even if I didn't have my PTSD service connected, I'm still service connected. I still have other issues. I'm not saying that this is something that I wanted the VA to service connect. I went after trying to get help. And I think that's what most of us are trying to do when we realize we have a problem, whether it's a mental health problem. We are trying to reach out and get help.
Well, I think it's funny. We weren't even talking about PTSD that has to do with NBC. I mean, so,
Yeah.
but I mean, and that's just it. And so I want I'm going to say what helps me, and everybody can say what helps them. I want it to we'll kind of keep it a little brief on this part, but for me, church, family, support group for any of my issues that I have. And I mean, that is your biggest lifeline. For me, it's the big boss God upstairs. He helps me out through everything. And like I said, I don't understand what PTSD is. I really don't. But I do know everybody has some sort of anxiety. I mean, they proved 96% of the United States has anxiety. I mean, that's going to pretty much almost the whole United States has some point of anxiety or depression. And so get with the church family, get with the vet group, get with any group. I mean, be honest, John, Wade, how much has being on the podcast helped y'all as far as talking
immensely.
and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely love it.
It does help.
Immensely.
Jason?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, absolutely.
I know Paul is.
There's no place I'd rather be.
Oh man, I'm better than Disney World. Son of a gun. No.
Oh, wow.
No, but I'll get a call from them tomorrow. What would you say? No, but I mean, honestly, this has even helped me because it makes me understand what y'all went through. Makes me understand what other vets went through. And it makes me appreciate each and every job out there. The Army, Air Force, everybody, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, kind of. I don't know about that yet.
That's about 25 years too late, but that's a whole
Yeah.
other conversation.
Yeah, I really wish we would have had that. I know I wouldn't have made it in, but that'd been really cool back then. Talk to somebody from Space Force, I'd be like, damn, what'd y'all do up in Space Force?
I think one of the questions that was asked earlier is, Kevin, you said, what briefly do each of you do when you feel that anxiety or that triggering moment?
Right.
What does each of us do, like 30 seconds to a minute? Kevin, you're always asking questions. What do you do when you feel that moment coming on? Are you able to stop it? Are you able to pivot and move left or right? Or do you feel pulled into the moment? What do you do?
Stop it. I stop it. Mine's real quick. If I feel like I got some type of anxiety of anything, mine just stops. I can walk away and go do woodworking.
What about you, Wade?
I learned breathing techniques. I very rarely. I don't go 0 to 10 anymore. I might go 0 to 3, but take a second. Do some breathing techniques, and which that didn't happen overnight, but.
Or he calls Kevin.
Or I call Kevin. Yeah, that's
Yep,
good. Good point.
That's
Yeah, that
true.
might be
What
that.
about you?
How about me?
Yeah. Jason, yeah.
Yeah. No, I haven't figured that one out yet. Yeah.
John, how about you?
I would have my therapist, I have a tendency when I'm triggered, I want to figure things out. And when I can't figure things out, if there's some situation I can't figure out, I have to tell myself, okay, is this within my means to fix? Do I have the capability of fixing this? Okay, how important in my life is this? And then I have to, for me, it helps start from the top and kind of checklisting in my brain off. Do I have any control of this? Yes or no? Do I have any control over this? Yes or no? Okay. Or I like to watch funny videos. I might just get on my phone and look for something to get my brain off of whatever it's that I want to laugh about something. So,
Everybody, I like to woodwork. Now, whenever I guess one of the biggest things is I wish I'd get rid of the neuropathy, the pain. That's probably the biggest thing. This is the first night my legs haven't burned in like 3 weeks. So I'm so grateful. So I'm happy as a lark, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go out
Well,
run a marathon.
That to happen. That's kind of off subject, but what got your legs to stop burning?
I don't know. It just stopped.
Really?
Hey,
Okay.
hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. Whatever good Lord gives me
Yeah.
and everything. I mean, but this has been great. I mean, this has been, you know, a life lesson for anybody out there that is struggling with any type of depression or anxiety or PTSD. And Jason, thanks, man. I mean, be honest with you, this was a great topic because it's important to remember everybody went through different situations out there, and everybody is still living it. You know, depression can also come with it with pain. You know, your pain could cause your depression. And you know, I'm just so I'm always in a good mood, you know, and you know, but I count that for, you know, my family's a big help, you know, it, all the way around. I'm really proud of them, and they made me who I am. I'm proud of my military family, even though the Army's going to get their ass whooped in the Navy game this year. Oh, did I say that out loud again? Oh, man, I'm really sorry. And by the way, you know, we're coming into the program. I want to remind everybody that it won't be long from now that John and Wade are going to have to dress up in full drag, lipstick, hair, dress, everything on the podcast.
We'll see.
And
We'll see.
I'm giving them a 10-point lead. That's how confident I am. And if the Navy coach is listening to me in Indianapolis, you better get off
I don't
that
even know when the
rocker.
hell the game is. When is the game?
When is it?
I don't even.
It's soon to come up. Don't worry. I'll take care of all that, everything.
It was Halloween last year.
And so,
okay.
And so, you know, it's coming up. It's coming, you know, it's not real soon, but it's coming and everything. Paul, thank you for your insight. Jason, thank you for your insight. Wade, thank you always for your, you know, insight. John, thank you for your insight. Kevin, just Kevin. Hey, so y'all go check out our Patreon. Y'all thought I was going to talk to myself in third party. Check out our Patreon. You know, it's at patreon.com, go for side effects /go for side effects. Go check it out. It helps us get access to further out there. And this is where we're going to go into the next show, and we're going to talk a lot more smack. And so this is just stuff that we can't say on Facebook or other stuff and everything. And if y'all need to contact me, y'all please contact me at Kevin Simon at goforsideeffects.com. Kevin Simon at goforsideeffects.com. And if you are struggling with PTSD, please, and y'all are having a hard time, y'all dial, you know, 988 and press 1. Or you can even text 838-255, the crisis hotline. They saved my life. They'll save your life. Everybody, y'all have a great night, and we'll see you next week.